Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the memorial service for Urmilaben Mehta. It's particularly fitting that we're having the memorial service here in Vedanta Hall, because Urmilaben would join us here pretty well every Sunday since we purchased the hall in 1987. So her memory and presence live on in this building, a place that's full of people and events that were so special to her. This morning, we'll give due honor to a special friend and a great devotee and a loyal member of our Vedanta Society. The program, as you can see, will start with the Vedic chanting by the Sri Sarada nuns. Then you're invited to share your reminiscences and anecdotes. That'll be led by Gayatri Pranaji, the president of our society, followed by Prabhajika Sridhar Pranaji, then Kishore and Jyotsna. And I see there are other members of the family here, so you're most welcome to come up and also share your thoughts, your reminiscences. And then we'll hand it over to the members and friends as well to come up and share some anecdotes. And then we'll conclude with a PowerPoint presentation on the life and times of Urmilaben Mehta. And that'll be followed by a reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna by Gayatri Pranaji, and that is a special request of Urmilaben. And then we'll finish with listening to a guided meditation by revered Prabhajika Ajaya Prana Mataji, who is such a very close and important person in Urmilaben's life. And then you're all invited to stay back for lunch. And by the way, I'll announce now and later, there's a book over on the table there. Those of you who attended the funeral, if you have already signed the book at the funeral, then fine. But if you missed signing that at the funeral, or if you weren't at the funeral, please leave your names there in the memorial book afterwards. So now I'll call on the Sarada nuns to do some Vedic chanting.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May Brahman protect us both, the teacher and the disciple. May he nourish us both. May we both work together with great energy. May our studies be vigorous and fruitful. May we not hate or criticize each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Now we will be chanting a few mantras from the Katha Upanishad. न जायते म्रियते वा कश्चिन्नायं कुतश्चिन्न बभूव कश्चित् अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. The knowing self is not born. It does not die. It has not sprung from anything. Nothing has sprung from it. Birthless, eternal, everlasting and ancient. It is not killed when the body is killed. Handa chen manyate handum hataschen manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam handi na hanyate. If the killer thinks he kills, and if the killed man thinks he is killed, neither of these apprehends right. The self kills not, nor is it killed. Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya jandor nihito guhayam tamakratu pashyati vita shoko dhatu prasada mahimanam atmanah. Atman, smaller than the small, greater than the great, is hidden in the hearts of all living creatures. A person who is free from desires beholds the majesty of the self through tranquility of the senses and the mind. and becomes free from grief. Ashariram sharireshvanavasteshvavasthitam mahandam vibhumatmanam matva dhiro nashochati. The wise person, having realized Atman as dwelling within impermanent bodies, but itself bodiless, vast and all-pervading, does not grieve. Sarveshu bhuteshu gudho atma na prakasyate drishyate tvagraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. The self, though hidden in all beings, does not shine forth, but it is seen by subtle seers through their one-pointed and subtle intellects. Ashabdamasparshamaropamavyayam tadharasam nityamagandhavachayat anadyanandam mahataparam dhruvam nichayatan mrityumukhat pramuchyate. Having realized Atman, which is soundless, intangible, formless, undecaying, and likewise tasteless, eternal, and orderless, having realized that which is without beginning and end, beyond the great and unchanging, one is freed from the jaws of death. Angushtamatra purushondaratma sada jananam hridaye sannivishtaha tam sharirat pravrihe munjadiveshikam dhairyena tam vidyachukram amritam tam vidyachukram amritamiti. The person no longer than a thumb, the inner self, always dwells in the hearts of all. Let one separate it from the body with steadiness, as one separates the tender stalk from the blade of grass. Let one know that self as the bright, as the immortal, as the bright, as the immortal. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sada. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That is, all that is invisible is verily the infinite Brahman. All that is visible is also the infinite Brahman. The whole universe has come out of that infinite Brahman. Brahman is infinite, although the whole universe has come out of it. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Okay. Yes, please come, Gotcha Pranaji, and share your notes. I'm just going to find you.
It's a known fact that God chooses different people for his work from whichever part of the world, as and when he needs. Now, just because I'm using the word he, don't think that God is male. God is neither male nor female. It's only, the gender is only for the body. And he makes them work as long as he wishes, not a second more or not a second less. And we can see that here, when we look at the work of this society, Sri Ramakrishna gets his workers from different parts of the world. So where is Uganda and where is Australia? Different parts of the world. And he brought Urmila from Uganda to Australia in 1972, early enough so that she would become familiar with the Australian. By the time the Sarada Math has come 10 years later. At that time in 1972, if anybody had told her that you have been brought to Australia, you have to come to Australia to do Sri Ramakrishna's work, it would have been a laughable matter because there was no Vedanta Society even here in Australia at that time. The first Vedanta Society was formed only in 1974. I remember seeing Urmila within the first 2-3 days of our arrival here in Australia in 1982 to Sydney. From then on, she was a regular visitor or attendee for all the classes and talks that Ajay Pranamarji conducted. Every Sunday, every Friday, and every Wednesday, as long as the Wednesday classes were on. Later, she started spending the whole Sunday. After Sunday talks, she'll stay back till evening, late evening. Before dark only, she'll go home. It so happened that once a visitor from Brisbane came and she met Urmila, and after talking to her, Urmila talked to her. And after a few years, this lady came again and found Urmila still there. So she was asking, do you live here? It was so funny. But because Urmila was part and parcel of our life here, especially on Sundays. And after her retirement, she became all the more available for us. All through the week, no problem. Because earlier she had to go to work. So she was available only on the weekends. But now after retirement, any day, just tell her early enough, Urmila, we want to go here. Can you come with us? No problem. Always there. Now it's hard to think that we can't just pick up the phone and call Urmila. Urmila, we want to go. Can you come this time? No, it's difficult. In God's work, some people are in the forefront. Some are in the background. However, both are equally important. The people in the forefront and the background workers, both are important for the work of God's work to be done properly. Urmila's work was mostly in the background. Nothing spectacular. You won't find anything spectacular that she did, but the daily chores of the household, all done for the sake of Sri Ramakrishna, steadily for 40 long years. It's not a small feat. To that you can do it day after day. Any function here in the Vedanta Hall, a few people will be there who will be staying back after everything is finished so that they clean up the kitchen and reduce Robert's work as much as possible because he has got to rearrange the hall and put everything back in normal as the usual Sundays. So and Urmila will be the one who is staying back most of the time to put everything back in place. So all that we will be missing now. And whatever she did for the society or for the monastics as nuns, she did as a service to Sri Ramakrishna. And Mataji often consulted Urmila when planning for any purchases for the hall or for Tapovan. Urmila heard about Sri Ramakrishna when she and Ashok attended Swami Ranganathananda's lectures and retreats in Sydney in 1980. A trip to India to attend the convention of the Ramakrishna order and initiation from by the then president of the Ramakrishna order, Swami, followed soon. Thus, by 1982, Sri Ramakrishna had prepared her. Revered Mataji in her work here And also, she was extremely fortunate to host Swami, most revered Swami Buddhishananda, who was the vice president at that time, who later became the president of the Ramakrishna Mutt, twice in 1982 and again in 1986. Maharaj stayed in her house. The Ramakrishna Mutt came here in Sydney only in 2000. So at that time, they had to stay in the house of devotees. And Urmila was fortunate to have the Swami in her house. Only when you think how long the devotees in India had to wait just to spend a short time with these holy people, you realize what a great opportunity you're having here in Australia. You get so free access that here you don't, because it's easily available, people don't realize. When they go to India, they see that the devotees stand in line for half an hour, 1 hour sometimes, just to spend 1 minute, sometimes not even that, for that. Only then you realize what a great opportunity, what a blessed opportunity you have here. Urmila was conscious of that. She was conscious of her great blessing in getting this holy company, and she made sure that she used that opportunity, every opportunity, to spend time in the holy company. She also had close contact with Swami Ranganathananda Maharaj, who started coming to Australia from 1974, and also Swami Damodarananda, who occasionally came from Fiji. Other than Revered Ajapranam Mataji, Urmila had close association with all the other Matajis who visited Australia now and then, like Revered Dhirapranam Mataji in 1985, then Revered Amalapranam Mataji, who is our General Secretary now, she visited twice. Then Vivek Pranaji, Sachit Pranaji, and all the other Matajis. Or not only here, also when she visited them in India. And she accompanied Ajapranam Mataji on several trips to the holy places in India, as well as Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore, and also all these different cities here in Australia. As you can see from many of the photographs that we will be showing later. Even when she could not be present in Vedanta Hall or in Sarada Tapovan, our nunnery, she was mentally there with us. Because any day, any time she couldn't come for any of the functions in the evening or the next day, she will be phoning us and asking, how did the function go? How many people came? Who all stayed for lunch? All details you have to tell. She'll be asking. And then if it is in Tapovan, we have these different observances and celebrations or special days like Ekadashi, birthdays of the different disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Whether if she can, she'll be present. Otherwise, mentally she's there because she'll be asking, oh, today is Ekadashi, or tomorrow is Ekadashi, or today is the birthday of such and such a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Always. Even in the hospital, she was asking, how many people came for the Guru Purnima? How many people came for an annual general meeting? Who did all the cooking? Every detail, because mentally she was here with us all the time. And it seems that even the exit from this world, she planned to have it on a special day. It was on the birthday of one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vijnanananda. On that day, early morning, she left. And we were celebrating here, not a big celebration, but in our nunnery, we have a special worship. And there she said bye-bye and went off. She continued that till June this year, when she had to go to the hospital. When she came home after a long stay in hospital, Sridhara Prana spent a few days with her. At that time, Urmila confided to Sridhara Prana about her concern as to what will happen after her death. Who will do the funeral? There was no idea of her sister Jyotsna and brother-in-law coming here at that time. So Sridhara Prana, and we comforted her, assuring that society will do. Society will do everything for her. As monastics, as nuns, we are not supposed to do anything, any funeral rites, but we will do. We will, and actually Robert did everything for her. Once assured, Urmila had no fear, no sorrow. She knew that she didn't have much time, but she tried to keep on going, trying to till the next year, so that she won't interfere with the plan of Jyotsna to go to India. After struggling for more than 2 months, she realized, no, this fight is useless. She could not gain weight, so she decided that it's time to say, it's time to take leave. She quite courageously made the decision. Instead of leaving the decision making to others, she didn't want other people to make the decision for her. She made the decision herself when she will leave. At her timing, she decided. She maintained that independent spirit till the last, refusing help from the nurses and even from her sister, till she was asked, no, you should not get up. Till then, she used to get up by herself without anybody's help. She was an independent spirit, maintained it till the end. The secret of Urmila's strength is her faith in God. We never heard her ask the question, why me? Instead, she said again and again to many people, I had a good life. I got the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and all the great Swamis and Maharajis. I'm really fortunate. She learned to connect everything with God, everything with Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. She said, when we were sitting there, one day she was telling us, when she was taken for the MRI, it happened twice, she said. MRI, very loud, lot of noise. So many people can find it extremely difficult to go through that. She said she imagined that she is in Belrumat. The evening arati is going on. Evening arati in Belrumat is quite loud. Lot of music, not just music. There is tabla, mridangam, piano, then khanjani, gong, big noise. So she imagined her and people singing. Maybe 500, sometimes 1,000 people will be singing. So she imagined herself to be in Belrumat. So she had no problem. She said she didn't have any difficulty. And the nurses were surprised how quietly she was lying there. This idea of connecting everything with God gave her the great strength. Thus we can say, Urmila showed us all that we can face death bravely if we have faith in God and have lived a God-centered life. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram prayadi samadbhavam yadi nasti atra samsyeha. One who passes out of life by consciously thinking of me at the last moment will certainly reach me. There is no doubt about this. We see Sri Ramakrishna also saying in the gospel that if one calls on him wholeheartedly, he would come to that person at least at the last moment. So I believe that the soul who lived among us as Urmila is now with Sri Ramakrishna. Thank you.
So beautiful day. I don't want to sit and cry. All the crying portion is over. Well, I met Urmila in 2003. Mataji had come from India, Australia, and many devotees had come along with her, and they were staying in Belur Math. Only Urmila was staying with us in Sarada Math. She is a product of Sarada Math, rather, I can say. She was so much always with us. So our General Secretary Mataji asked me to take Urmila to Belur Math because all the devotees will be meeting President and the General Secretary. So she asked me to take. I didn't know who she is, or anyway, I was just doing what Mataji asked. So in the course of time, we went and then we finished. We met all the devotees. That was the first time I saw Robert, Betty, and other people, everybody. So after Maharaj's meeting, then we went to Smarananda Maharaj, General Secretary. Everything over. Then I asked her, we were supposed to come by taxi, but then I asked, do you want to go by boat on the Ganges? She said, I would love to. So immediately, instead of taking a taxi and going on that dusty road, so we crossed the river by boat, and the boat comes to Dakshineshwar Kali temple, where Sri Ramakrishna had practiced for 30 years, severe austerities, and realized the wonderful truths which is being spread in the whole world. So I took her there, and I went to the office and asked, can I have the permission to take this lady from Australia? I don't think she'll be coming always. Can I take her inside the temple? I mean, into the main sanctum. So the person gave me the permission. So I took her, and she was so happy. All her life, she was so grateful to me. So many, even in the last few days also, she said, it was so nice of you, Sridhar Pranaji, to take me to there. So I took her into the Garbha Mandir inside, and she could do pranam and stand where Sri Ramakrishna had sat and worshipped. So she did her pranams, and then it was a very good time. And then both of us, we came. I took her to one of our center. Center means it's a place where we had got wonderful work going on. That was the house which was given. It was used by a sweeper, Sri Ramakrishna's time. A sweeper was there. He used to live there, and he passed away taking Sri Ramakrishna. He had taken refuge in Sri Ramakrishna. So that house came to us. So we had a very beautiful building, and a lot of wonderful works are going on. Upbringing the whole uneducated girls of Dakshineshwar. Now they all have become so good. So it's wonderful work. So I took her there. She was very happy to be in the place where Rasik Mathur was there. That's the place. So she was very happy. And from there she came. And then when I was asked to come to Australia, and when Gayatri Panaji mentioned that Sridhar Prana is going to come, oh, I know her very well. She's a very good friend of mine, she said. And then I came. At that time, when I was going in the boat, I never knew. Later, I will have to be with this person. This person will be so close to me. We do not know. It's a casualty. So many people come to Belur, Dakshineshwar. I take them to the places and then show them, because they would have read it. But when they see the proper things, this is the place where Sri Ramakrishna used to shave. Okay. See, it's nothing. But when you see the God incarnate had sat here and shaven, that is something great. Here he went and sat with, talked to. So I take the people and show them that this. So they feel happy. So that's how I took her also. But I didn't know that just after 3 years, I will be staying with her, and till her end, I will be with her. Amazing, isn't it? The way God works. But really, I'm not going to say time, but then really, I'm very grateful to Sri Ramakrishna for introducing me Urmila. Such a good, great soul, and I have got a lot of impetus and inspiration from her. Thank you.
Namaste, Jai Shri Krishna. My name is Kishore, as I was introduced earlier. I'm Jyotsna's husband, and Jyotsna is Urmilaben's sister. So I'm going to say a few words that Jyotsna wanted me to say on her behalf, because this is a very emotional time for her and for us. Here goes. I'm very grateful to revered Pravrajika Gayatri Prana, Pravrajika Sridhara Prana, Pravrajika Nityatma Prana for arranging this wonderful memorial service for Vidya, Urmilaben, Urmi, as we all know her. As have been spoken by the judges, I don't know how anybody can follow that, but we will try. Urmi was the daughter of Kalyanji Pai and Jayabran Rani, born on 24th of January, 1953, in Tororo, Uganda. She was a sister of the late Mr. Odoji Soni, Mrs. Anantaben Chandrakant Jogia, late Mr. Harilal Soni, Ms. Vimla Raniga, and me, Jyotsna Pala. Following the death of our mother, my father married Shantaben, and there was an addition to the family. We had a sister named Bhavna Raniga. From a very young age, Urmi was simple, softly spoken, very homely person. She never demanded anything. All the other brothers and sisters did. She was always happy with what she had. The rest of the family would go on outings, go and see films, visit friends, relatives. Not Urmi. She would stay at home most of the time. From Tororo, we moved to Ambale, where we continued our education. We were well settled. Life was normal and generally good. Then in 1972, General Idi Amin had a dream. His dream was different to Martin Luther King's. The Ugandan president said he had a dream, and in that dream, God told him to expel all the Asians, basically the Indians who were there. He decided that the Asians would be expelled within 90 days. If you're, how difficult is it for you to move from one house to another in the same city? Can you imagine what these people felt and suffered? Things changed suddenly. There was a lot of turmoil. Because things were unsettled, our parents decided that we needed to think of where the family would be settling afterwards. And then Urmi and Vimla got married. So there wasn't enough turmoil. We had that. Urmi left Uganda with Ashok in 1972. And they were the first Ugandan Asians to arrive in Australia. Our brother Harilal went to Holland, as my sister did, Vimla, and I went to London. And our parents remained in Uganda with Bhavna. Suddenly, everybody's life had changed. Communication was difficult. You had to write letters. Can you imagine doing that now? Occasionally, we were able to make phone calls. Urmi and Ashok came to visit the UK a few times. And however later, we learned that she was divorced. She never discussed why she was divorced. She was a very private person and kept things to herself. She was never negative or portrayed Ashok as a bad person, although there were difficult times in their marriage. That is how Urmi was. Never had anything bad to say to anybody about anybody, even if they were unfair to her, if they were nasty to her. After her divorce, she came to visit us regularly and was very, very close to our son, Avinash. And Avinash was very close to her, and they both kept in touch very regularly. And when Avinash finished university, he came to visit Australia as part of his round the world tour and stayed a few days with Urmi. Urmi was happy. She was content with her life, her work. Urmi and I exchanged messages every morning and shared interesting articles via WhatsApp. We had regular video calls. She was very fortunate, as we were, to visit us twice after my grandson was born, Ritik, in 2017. She was very fond of Ritik, as he was with her. And even he was 2 when she came, and he still remembers her. Ten years ago, we had the shocking news that she had cancer. I visited her that time after her surgery to stay with her, to support her, and to look after her. I was very fortunate to meet everybody at Tapovan, having met Mataji, the devotees, and the group of friends that she had during my visit. I was happy that her real family was in Australia. As I said my goodbyes 10 years ago, Mataji reassured me that Urmi was their sister and would be looked after. Mataji asked me to reassure all our friends and relatives when I returned back home that Urmi was not alone. And I did that. And we were all very much reassured, because the way Urmi was, she'd say she was fine. When I came, I saw for myself. I'm sad that Urmi is no longer with us, but I know that she is at peace now. She told me, I have lived my life. I have done what I wanted to. I have no regrets. I am ready to go. I know she meant what she said. She felt that the quality of life was non-existent. She could not eat. She lost a lot of weight. She was 30 kilos when she passed. Although Urmi was in a great deal of pain and discomfort, she had waited for us to get here from the UK to be with her. It was very heartbreaking to see her like this. I'm very fortunate that I had 10 days and nights of quality time with her to discuss her needs, her wishes, and talk about things past and present. Urmi will be missed, but she'll always be in our hearts. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the Matajis, to Robert, Shandipa and Parvati, all the devotees of Tapovan who've truly been there for Urmi. There are no words that can adequately express what this means to us. So simply, thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts.
Sure. Like I said, it was when the 2 of you arrived at Sydney Airport, having been called urgently from the UK, I thought couldn't have two better people. With your backgrounds, you had all the qualities that Urmilaben needed at that time. Now, just the other members of the family, you're welcome to come and share if you like before we open it for members and friends. Anybody else would like to say anything? Otherwise, it's open. Please, all of you who've known her so well, please come up and share some memories.
Namaste, everybody. I'd like to share my time with Umi, how we first met her. She was one of the first ones to arrive from Uganda. And suddenly we had a phone call from my brother-in-law to say, our Masi's daughter is in Sydney. This is the address. Go and look for her. So we went looking for her and they were in Randwick. And ever since, Umi thought of us that we were her family. And every time she came to the ashram, often she used to come and spend her Sunday afternoons and spend quality time with us. We shared Raksha Bandhan, we shared birthdays, and we share a lot of family news together. We miss you, Umi. Rest in peace.
I want to share a few memories of Urmila. So I've known Urmila for 40 years when we came in contact with this society. And I think Urmila was one of the first persons that I met with the that she went at her house when Andaji used to come here. And I think because of our mutual love of the society and Jayaprana Mataji, I had the opportunity to, Mataji would ask us to take the sisters out to, Mataji would ask us to take the sisters out for the day to just have some relaxing time. So that's how I started spending time with Urmila. And over the years, there became a tradition at the end of the year, we would have a little holiday away from Sydney. So Mataji would invite a group of devotees and we would go on a little adventure, maybe for a week or 5 days to different parts of New South Wales. And I always, Urmila and I would always get a room together so that we could make sure we could spend time together and make it into a real spiritual retreat for us, because we understood each other and, you know, gave each other space to do that. So, and during that time, we would just go sightseeing or, you know, a lot of just spend time with Mataji. But also our duty was to cook and make the meals for everyone. So Urmila taught me a lot of cooking and had like an apprenticeship over a few years to learn how to make things properly. And it was a bit of a joke with us because she was, you know, She was quite a good teacher, but she didn't let me off to learn properly. So she was quite particular with the way things should be done. And I'm glad I learned that. It was really a blessing. And at the end, after a few years, she gave me a certificate. A certificate in Indian cooking, which I should have brought to show you all. Yeah. And the other thing during those times, so it's going back 40 years, so there were, quite a lot of times where we would spend these times together. And in the beginning, I had young children, and my son was quite young at that time, and he would come away with us sometimes. And what I noticed about Urmila, she's very quiet and, didn't say much, but she was very perceptive and intuitive. And sometimes quietly after, she would tell me things like what she'd noticed around, like, how my son may have been feeling, things that I may have missed. So she would tell me quietly to help, with that connection. And she's just very intuitive about people and what they may have been feeling. And I just found that really helpful and insightful. And another thing, over the years, wherever she would go, she would always bring little things, always remembering everybody, and a little gift here, a little gift there, always thinking about other people. And she told me once, you can't things shouldn't stagnate. We get things and give them out, get things, give them out. And I noticed she was always doing that in small ways, with small gifts, and also thinking about other people and what they needed. And when I was in hospital, I told my daughter, who's now, not a little kid anymore, grown up, and but she hadn't seen Urmila for a while, but here's about her. And I told her that Urmila wasn't well, she's in hospital. And Maggie said, I'll pray for her. We're going to pray for her and think about her. And then after that, Maggie said to me, when I was praying and meditating on Urmila, I had this realization that all of these years, Urmila's been thinking about me quietly and sending love to me and sending love to Talia, who's my granddaughter, Maggie's daughter. And she said, I felt that. I could feel how much that love and prayers and good thoughts that she's been sending over all these years. And I told her that she was very happy. She said she was very proud of Maggie to hear that. And one small incident, one time when we were away on one of these trips, I think we were at Katoomba. Anyway, we were staying somewhere, or maybe at Mount Kosciuszko, and we were staying in little cabins, and it'd been some discussion, just general discussion. Mataji would always tell stories and just, little incidents. And there'd been a discussion about getting old and retiring and being of service. There'd been some discussion all around that. And Mataji had said that Swami Ranganathanandaji had commented about some devotees that now they were old and retired, they wanted to come and help and be of service, but actually they weren't very helpful because they were a bit old and didn't have any energy left. and a funny story anyway. And I was like a bit horrified at the thought. It was quite a few years ago, and I was a lot younger, and I was like, oh, that is just awful. I never want to be like that. I want to be able to do something always. And Mataji said, because I don't know who was there for this conversation, but Urmila was busy doing things like she always was. And I was just sitting around. And Mataji said, look at Urmila. She's always doing things. She's always doing something. She was always looking for something to be useful. If there's nothing to do, she's picking up a broom. That's what she said. Look at Urmila, small things. You should get into the habit of being like that. Look around, think what you can do and do something useful, and then you won't end up like that. things like that. Anyway, we spent a lot of time together on our trips and, being roommates. And I learned a lot from Urmila. And I never saw her get angry or agitated at anything, always calm, but she would come back later and tell me things that she'd noticed. So, and I still remember those things. So, yeah, I'm grateful to have known her, and I'll always remember her. She's still here with me.
Hi, I belong to an association called Women's Interfaith Network. And we spent just a little time with Urmila, but the time we had with her, she always made us feel special and kept telling us we were a family. And then when I came to the funeral and I saw all these people, I said, how can that be? Urmila kept telling us we were her family. So where did these? So Pilu auntie and me would get onto a bus, and Urmila would join us halfway because she couldn't find parking near the center. So we'd have our chats and all on the way to the meeting. And then a friend of ours, Barbara, who coordinated our meetings, would drop us back. Or often we went for lunch, and Urmila was very happy. And we always remember her as a happy person. And throughout COVID, she called me all the time, more than I called her, to see if I was all right. She honestly did that. And I looked at my WhatsApp messages, and I'm seeing that just 2 weeks before she passed, and I'm asking her, how are you, Urmila? And she says, I'm okay. I'm getting better. So that was Urmila. Just wanted to tell you. She was a very affectionate person. And like I said, she made us feel very special. So I'm thinking, where did all these people come from? We were her family. And she only told us about Mataji's and how she loved to go with Mataji everywhere. And that part of her life a lot, she spoke a lot about that. I just want to say we were very happy to know Urmila.
I'll be quick. I think with our Urmila auntie, she, as everyone's alluded to, she just worked very quietly, but always always support us. So I think as we remember, there's a few of us here who've been as part of the young people's meetings that we used to have about 15, 20 years ago. The Urmila auntie would like to bring snacks in as well, just to make sure like she provision for us as well. Just these little things that she always like paid attention to these details. And then the other thing I just also want to share as well is that when we saw her at the hospital that a week before she passed away, it was just amazing to see how alert she was. She wake up just at the time, say when mother like entered into the room, and just the clarity in her mind still it was incredible. But even then, like we're just like talking with her, she was still concerned about our welfare, saying, it's like, oh, you drove all the way from the other side of the city. He's just like, yeah, I mean, he was just said like it was just natural for her. Like, can't just imagine how much physically like she's going through there, just at that time, but still has that clarity and that warmth, that kindness there. It was quite special. And also just when conversing with her as well, it's not as if it was like seeing like a friend was departing or anything like that. It's like literally it's like she's still gonna be around it's still around us. So it just had that, feeling there. Like you could see, like she was, yeah, she was attuned with something else. I think definitely at that point in time, like she's definitely attuned with something, with probably something higher. So yeah, it was a privilege. It was a privilege. Yeah, being able to be in Urmila's presence.
Mataji's, Kishore Bhai, Utsabe, Jai Shri Krishna. For those who might not be fully aware, Jai Shri Krishna is the way of greeting all through Gujarat, especially in India. You are invoking Shri Krishna's presence before starting a conversation or even starting a letter. We in the society have such happy, blessed memories of Urmila. A few things that struck us, my wife Lalita and me. She had a Vedantic life, a fearless living. She was unfazed by many tough events in her life, as we have seen. Displacement in Uganda. Virtually, she had said they came just carrying the clothes on their backs with nothing else. Starting life as refugees in Australia, a divorce, a cancer. But despite these, she never had any bitterness or negativity or cynicism or skepticism. Separations and divorces are particularly often bitter, but she had never an uncharitable word to say about her ex-husband. Kishore Bhai referred to that. Out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaketh, and we never heard anything from her mouth ill about her husband or anybody else. And that shows that in her heart, she never had any ill will, in spite of what would have been a very difficult separation. And along with the Vedantic living, she had a Vedantic death, a fearless dying. We were astonished at how she maintained her calm in the last days. And I must say, very envious, because I do not think I have the gumption to personally have that kind of calm and peace when my time comes. But she was a living example of how one should die with grace and dignity and without fear. We visited her on the Wednesday before she passed, and what was strange, and I haven't heard this in any of the speeches or the funeral talks, but she made a special reference to the grace of her guru, Swami Vireshwaranandji Maharaj, and attributed her lack of fear in the face of death to him. So that was very interesting, and I don't know whether Jyotsna-ben may have been in the room or stepped out, but Kishore Bhai was there, so I was really amazed to see her acknowledgement. Now, incidentally, she and I are Guru Bhais, and my wife, but I don't think she was saying it just because we are Guru Bhais, because she didn't say due to the grace of our Guru. She just said due to the grace of my Guru. So I think temporarily she didn't even know that we recall that we are Guru Bhais. But that was quite amazing. And this Guru, Prabhu Maharaj, was a very frail, diminutive person, not an imposing personality. I mean, spiritually, he was a giant, but physically, he was a very unassuming personality. And often, I imagine he was tended to be lost in the crowds. But what a spiritual giant, and what a great acknowledgement for Urmilaben to attribute her fearlessness. Her tireless service of Ajay Prana Mataji is legendary, but unless we were traveling with them, and perhaps not even just to Dharma, but somewhere else like Adelaide or Gold Coast, I don't think we fully understood how much Urmilaben mattered to till my sister, who is in the Gold, mentioned that whenever he visited her, and Urmilaben was generally accompanying her, they were astonished to see how waited hand and on Mataji, and how much Mataji was dependent on her. So she really came into her own, it seems, when they were traveling out of Sydney, and Urmilaben did so much for Mataji. Not only did Urmilaben get a pride of place in the society, but she also got pride of place at the Sunday lunch. And I don't know, those of you are on the WhatsApp link that Hiroko-san has put together. But there's a beautiful picture of the three Matajis and Urmilaben. Gayatri Pranaji sitting at the head of the table, the two Matajis on the right, and the pride of place, the first available place for the householder, for a householder, was on the left. That was always reserved for Urmilaben. In a true style, in true character of Urmilaben, she did not take her place for a long time into the lunch, because she was still busy clearing up, warming up, putting away things, and the lunch had to proceed. So the pride of place remained unoccupied because she was selflessly devoted, without caring about her prestige. She was concerned about the society's affairs and how they had to be brought to a certain position before she could assume a position of enjoyment. And Lastly, it struck us as to how much loving concern she had at the end for her sister and brother-in-law by just a small example that I came to know of in the passing. It wasn't even relevant for me to know, but I got to know, and I was deeply touched and impressed. There may have been a custom between the siblings, close families, when they were doing international travel, that the host family would take care of the visiting family's immediate cash needs. You go to an overseas country, you have a different currency that you're carrying from your place, and you don't have easy access to the local money. But on her deathbed, this is just less than 10 days before she passed. She was not quite paralyzed, but bedridden, not able to move around. But her biggest, it seems, her biggest tension was how to get some cash in Australian currency for you. Now, surely, anybody would understand that she was in no position to have done this for you. And you are seasoned travelers. There's no trouble at all to pass by TravelX booth or any of the umpteen booths at the airport and pick up some cash. But no, it was her major worry and matter of stress. She wanted to make sure you had ready Australian currency in your immediate possession so that you did not have any inconvenience. And I just happened to come to know of this, and I was astonished at the filial love between the siblings. So it has been a blessing to know her. And this is our family, I'm afraid, not just you, a little extended family also. But I hope that you will go back feeling good, that this was her home, spiritual home, physical home, and more than what we did for her, she has done for all of us. So it has been a great blessing to know her. And we hope that under happier circumstances, you will visit us again and look after yourselves. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to reflect on my friendship with Urmila. I met Urmila shortly after my initiation by Mataji. As she was a close devotee to Mataji, she knew what to do about almost everything. I was a bit nervous, especially in the kitchen, because there were certain rules that one could do or could not do, and I would often turn to her for advice. From our conversation in the kitchen, our relationship developed into something more. We got to talk not only about the activities of the society, as she was a regular helper to Mataji and would accompany her everywhere, as much as she could. From the Sunday talks, our friendship developed to having a cup of coffee after the talks and the programs. And we would sometimes have lunch together, which I truly enjoy. I had not realized that she had breast cancer. And I learned that she had to go to Bankstown Hospital for her treatment. And then she would, which involved taking a train or a bus and a taxi. As I did not live very far from Bankstown Hospital, I offered to drive her home after her treatment to Bexley. And from there, our friendship grew. I found her to be really stoic. She never complained about what she had to do, how she had to travel, and the inconvenience and the pain she had to experience. Not a word about it, not a word of complaint. I don't know how she did it, you know. And one day, after her treatment, I took her back as usual. And on driving back, there was a bad thunderstorm, a very bad one, where I had to stop halfway because visibility was so bad. She, on the other hand, realized that, and she kept ringing the house to see whether I reached home safely. Of course, I didn't, and that worried her even more, because I had to stop the car. So the minute I reached home, I rang her and told her that I had arrived safely. Although she had just had treatment and she had to have a rest, she still could not rest until she realized that I had arrived home safely. I have a lot of admiration for Urmila, because despite of her problem and difficulties, I have never heard her complain. And that is the truth about anything she had to do or what she had to endure. I am sometimes a complainer, so I truly appreciate what she was like. She had what we in Sanskrit call titiksha, a word I've always been very attracted to. And to me, Urmila represents somebody who has titiksha, the forbearance to bear and accept whatever condition she had to go through. She is what I would call a Vedantin, one who follows the teaching of Vedanta to the best of her ability. And it has been a great honor to have known her. Thank you.
Be about right. Greetings, everyone. I'm largely here in Vedanta because I used to work with Ashok, Urmila's husband at the time. So it's through those two that I'm here. Now, Nandu mentioned divorce. I'm divorced. I've been through a divorce. Like most divorces, a complete and utter mess. You can call it other things, you know, use epithets and all sorts of things. Then I heard that Ashok and Urmila were divorced. With Urmila, it just seemed like it didn't disturb her equanimity at all. It was like external events were occurring, but not buffeting her internally. Now, it certainly buffeted me more than enough. It just was difficult. Whereas with her, it just seemed like the ship is sailing across the ocean and the ocean's doing what it wants to do, but the ship is just maintaining this even keel. So there's two things that come to mind. There's an incredible calmness and this equanimity. And never, yes, everyone said this, there's never a complaint, never a bitterness. And it's just a wonderful example. And I got the impression I was the last person apart from immediate family and Robert who got to see her in the hospital. And I didn't know what to expect. I just went in, I thought, oh, well, I took one of the last book from Mataji. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just sit quietly and do some reading, just to be there in her presence. I walk in, she wakes up, she goes, oh, hi. And we were chatting and I thought I'd be there 10, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. I was there for an hour. And she was, despite, lying back and seemingly to be in pain, it was as if the morphine plus her own internal strength seemed to ride over the pain. And we were just talking, and then she sort of looked like she wanted to sleep and that. And I said, oh, I'll leave. She said, no, read to me. So I started reading and that seemed to go really well. She was just lying back and I guess I did a reasonable job of it, but it seemed to work. And it was really quite remarkable. So I got the impression that for her, you're born, you live, you die. But it's like when I was in the hospital, it was like I could see somehow or other that the train is coming to the end of its journey. And she's just a passenger on that train. And as it pulls, it's going to slowly pull into the station and come to a stop. She'll get off and her soul will go. And that was what the impression I got was, I thought, how calm in the face of all this. This is part of a journey. It's just another step along. And I just go, what a fabulous example. And there's one, let's go more secular now. I've had 4 trips to India to see Pranam Mataji. And all of them are memorable, but there was the one in 2017, there was Robert, Tony, Talia, Tony's granddaughter, and Urmila. Now, for whatever reason, there seemed to be something remarkable about that trip that it had a certain calmness. And maybe that was just a combination of everybody. But I mentioned that my daughter wanted some Indian clothing, some tops to wear. So I mentioned this to Urmila. Well, this was sort of like not something to be taken lightly. One must attack this with gusto and do it properly. And so I've got 3 women sort of taking me around, looking at absolutely everything and discussing what it is that I should be buying for my daughter. And I've never had a shopping expedition like that ever. So it sticks in the mind. So they're the sort of things that I can remember about Urmila, and that she was always in the background doing things that just seemed to, the kitchen just seemed to be sort of, things are being controlled. And if you never knew where anything went, where's this go? It goes there. So it was just always, it's just amazing. So they're my recollections. Thank you.
Thank you. The words that I read out at the funeral were my son's, and the words that I read out today were my wife's. And you might think, does this man not think for himself? And I do. So Urmilaben rang me on the 18th of October. And she said, I cannot take any more. I'm going to stop the medication. She wanted us to go to India for a family holiday. That's me, Jyotsna, my son, his wife, and my grandson's first trip. I said, holidays come and go. This doesn't. And then I spoke to her social worker. And then I said to Jyotsna, we get the first available flight. Problem was Australian immigration, of course, which you guys may not know, but for externals, it can be a pain in the proverbial posterior. But by the grace of God, I applied for a visa. I could have applied for a tourist visa. I didn't, because I knew that once I came here and she passed, there'd be a lot of things I needed to do to help. So I applied for a business visa. And then I woke up. For the first 3 weeks after that, I slept 2 hours a day maximum, 3 hours top. And I called the service center in Australia from the UK, on the line 40 minutes. And I said, eventually I got through to the right person. And I said, this is why I'm coming. Can you tell me 2 things? Is it the right visa? Because this is what's going to happen. And secondly, can you put it on priority? And they did. And by the grace of God, from Tuesday morning to Thursday midnight, the visa came through. Friday, I spoke to my brother-in-law to get the first available flight. I said, any airline, any airport. And Friday, 5 o'clock in the evening, our flights were to leave on Monday afternoon, sorry. So we arrived 7 days later. If it'd been India, Africa, had it been US, South America, Russia, I'd be there the next day. Took me a week to get here. And for the first time in my life, until then, I thought the world was a small place. It's not. It's a very, very big place when it comes to that. Everybody has said so far, she's always concerned about you, not her. And Nandabai mentioned the dollars. I mean, I brought dollars with me, but she just wouldn't have it. She says, no, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Your accommodation sorted, your pickup sorted, this is done, that's done. To finalize, I thought just before the funeral, is it possible for a man to love a woman that's not the mother, not the sister, not the wife, not the daughter? And I think this is the person that I love, who's not any of those. And I'm not sure that I can say anything greater than that for her. So it's been a privilege to come here, to put her mind at rest in those final days, to meet all of you, to truly understand what she was as a person, as everybody has spoken about her today. And it's just reinforced what we only thought superficially, because we didn't really know. Even when she was dying, when we spoke on the phone, you could not tell she was ill. That's how strong she was. So thank you all for coming. I'm not finishing this, but this is my last bit. So thank you, and I look forward to meeting you later.
Thank you. Our family had the privilege of hosting Urmila along with Mataji at Gosford, and also had the opportunity to travel with Urmilaben. I don't know whether Robert told you, you're all very lucky that you all are here, because Urmila carried 2 secrets shared with me. One is, she's the only one who knew Mataji's, Ajaprana Mataji's, how to get well on with Ajaprana Mataji. Even, I would say, even the current Mataji wouldn't know it. She carried it. And number 2, she shared with me. So you can ask me whichever you like. The Vedantists, you can ask for the Mataji's love or number. I don't think they would know. I think while they are seated here, the best thing cleared. And The other thing is, I always have a joke with Urmilaben. I don't know whether any of you all have seen her laughing loudly. Anybody? Ah, good. I haven't, but she has laughed at me loudly. This was in Calcutta. I think she was very, very good enough to take us around to Holy Mother's place, Jarampati. She traveled with us and she took us to Belur Math, and then she took us to Holy Mother's place in Calcutta. She insisted that we should go to Holy Mother's place after Belur Math. Well, while we were traveling, we had like shedding. I was losing things on the way, and she was very happy about it. I lost my shoes, walked away from Belur Math on his own, which is very spiritual. And she insisted now I should go to Mataji's Tapovan, even though I said, no, that's good enough. We have been, it's hard to travel in Calcutta. No, you must come. So I had borrowed Mr. Koo from Adelaide, his slippers, and I was so angry. I mean, talking about forbearance, I never had any, even now. So I was so angry that I said, I'm going to walk barefooted. And then they said, no, you can't. I mean, because it's too hard to walk in India and that place, those places. So Koo gave me this spare, very expensive slippers. It was only borrowed, so I took it. And then I went to Mataji's place, Holy Mother's place. I forgot the name. No, not Tapo. Udbodh. It's just a normal building and I hid, there's places where you can keep it, and I hid it in a place where nobody can get it. Went up, it only took 10 minutes, came back, gone. And Urmilaben was enjoying that. I never see David. I said, I was that angry, and we got into the taxi, and then I started talking about it, and the taxi man, he knew more Bhagavad Gita than anybody else. And he gave me a full lecture. What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. And Urmilaben was sitting behind and laughing. And then ultimately we ended up, we got into the shoe shop. I had to replace Mr. Koo's one. I had to buy my one, and I bought one for the taxi man. And Urmilaben, I'm sure she'll still be enjoying that. Thank you, Urmila.
Hello, good afternoon. It is already 12 past. Now, as I know, as most of us who are coming here, they know that she was coming to me for the treatment for last more than 25 years. And I knew about her everything. She was never complaining of anything. Every time she will come after the cancer, she had to have every time referral for the specialist. So she will come, her blood pressure and everything I used to check, but never whinge about anything. Sometimes she won't get the appointment. And then she once in the hall, she said, I had asked for you. You are not working, and these people will not give you the appointment because they say, he's fully booked. I said, don't worry about it. You just walk in and let me know. And then I gave my mobile number. And so when you come there, you give me a ring on my mobile and I'll see you. Now, last time when she came, because of the COVID, most of the time it was a phone consult. So I used to give this referral or whatever is needed. After the about 3 or 4 months ago when she came to my surgery and I was checking her, and even just week before I had seen her in the hall and I said, she is losing weight. And she said, I'm coming to see you on Tuesday because Tuesday and Friday I work and sometimes on Thursday. So I said, all right, come on. And when she came, I was checking her blood pressure. I said, let me check your blood. And when I said, she pulled up sleeve and I said, this is bloody bone and skin only. So immediately the blood pressure was low. I said, let me check your weight because you lost a lot of weight. And it was 36 kilo. And I said, no, what's happening? He said, my appetite is gone. I said, all right, I'll just try to ring the gastroenterologist and try to fix an appointment. So I rang up my friendly gastro. He said, I can see her only on Thursday. Then I said, no, Thursday is too late. And I asked one of my colleagues, he said, Dr. Thacker, you send her to the hospital. So I was trying to send her to the hospital. I said, how did you come? I drive here. I said, I don't think you should drive. But then she said, no, I'll go slowly. Because if I called the Robert, I knew about Robert, but I said, Robert can't drive 2 cars. So in the end, she said, okay, I'll go slowly. I said, I'll give you the letter now. Moment you go to the home, ring the ambulance and give them my letter to them and go there. And what happens, you let me know on my mobile, even if it is 10 o'clock or midnight, doesn't matter. So she went there. There's people in the St. George, they checked everything and then said, we are sending you home. You go to your GP, he will send you to the specialist and then they will investigate. And she immediately rang me on my mobile. She said, Dr. Thacker, they are sending me home. I said, no, you tell the resident to give me a ring on my mobile and I'll talk to them. And then the resident came and I was furious. I said, what, you are sending her home? Yeah, you can just refer to the specialist and get this thing done. And I said, what do you think yourself to be? I said, do you see this lady is completely dehydrated? How much is weight she has lost? And she is nearly half. Then she said, I'll talk to the senior. She went there. Those people say, we will rehydrate her and send her in the morning. I said, okay, before you send, you let me know. And you will be surprised. After that, she never came out of the hospital. She was there for more than 4 to 6 weeks. After all the investigation were done, a lot of extension of her recurrence of the cancer had taken place. And then they rehydrated, then they put the nasogastric tube and all those things. And after that also, she continued for nearly 3 months. But the beauty of one of the things was about Vijaya, because I call Vijaya because of her medical when we call them Vijaya Mehta like that. So when the beauty was, till the end, she was in an absolutely clear mind, which I have not seen in many people. Even the last couple of times when I went there, she was absolutely clear. Even she will ask about my son, how is he going and all those things. And even on a Friday when I went there, when Kishore Bhai and Josnaben was there, I saw her. Moment she saw, she opened her eyes and folded her hand. But she was very dopey that time. That was the only, but Tuesday I had seen, absolutely clear. She will talk, she will, so clear that you could, I was amazed actually, because I was in so many days. But most of the time, once you are on a palliative care, because we give this morphine and all that, they dulls your brain. But she was very fine. Until the end, she was absolutely amazing. It was really privileged to look after her. And she never took the advantage. Look, I know him, so she will come on the side way or something. She will always come to the surgery or make an appointment and see. I think it was a good person and I always liked her and she was looking more like a family. I said, you don't worry about and even when Mataji told me when she was in a St. George, I said, I'm in the Engadine. On the way, I'll go and see her. And there also same thing was that those people were going to discharge her. And I said, look, before they discharge, you ask him, speak to my GP, and then he will tell you. And they never did that. She came out of the hospital for a few days. Again, she was vomiting, so she was admitted again. And last time, she put in Varata, and then the end came. But she was quite peaceful when she went. There was no growling or suffering much. Thank you.
Just a short one. Dear Urmila, to me, you have always been an inspiration. I can never forget the conversations we've had, and you always advised me. And I remember the last time we spoke was at one of our Wednesday classes with Mataji, when she said, you know, Tilaka, what we have to understand is you and I, we are independent. We have to thank God for that. And for that, I'm grateful. And she has these, whatever adversity she faces, she has a smile on her face. And she's a very loving, compassionate person. I hope when my time comes to go, I will have 100% of the strength and courage that she showed when she was in her last stages. Thank you, Urmila.
I'll say a few words. It's a bit hard to talk about it, of course, but I first met Urmilaben and Ashok in 1980. We used to attend a yoga class in North Sydney run by Yvonne Malik. And also through Yvonne Malik, that is how we came to know about Swami Ranganathananda, who used to, back then, undertake a world lecture tour each year, including Australia. And I'm realizing we were coming to yoga and meditation and Vedanta with similar backgrounds in a way. We had both been through a lot in our lives, and we needed something like that very badly. I'm sure Urmilaben, with what she went through, having to be uprooted from Uganda, that was quite traumatic. And I've been through my own traumas. So I found very, very common needs we had in that way. This was something that was strengthening and giving us some peace and expanding our view of life. Also, coming to know Urmilaben and Ashok, they were like my introduction to Indian culture. That was quite an enriching thing for me. You know, the open-heartedness, the generosity, the feeding of you, so on. That was where I came to have such a love for Indian culture through them. So then, of course, ever since Urmilaben's been a big part of my life, she somehow came to have such a feeling for me that, you know, an elder sister. And I was quite, of course, touched by that. When there'd be a sale on, she'd give me money and say, go and buy some clothes. I mean, I think she had a special feeling for me too, because I served the Vedanta Society all these years, and she saw how I served Mataji and the nuns. So she appreciated that. So it was also her way of showing her appreciation for what I've been doing. Probably the most powerful memories I'm going to have of her were these last few weeks. She had rung me around the time she'd rung Kishore when she'd made her decision. I got a call from her one night and she just very calmly told me she's not going to continue, not going to go in for the treatment. And then next day it was quite dramatic. Suddenly I'm getting a call from the social worker and the doctor in charge of the Waratah Hospital. And they were telling me very definitely and sternly, the family has to come urgently. And I got to admit, I found that Urmilaben also then was really depending on me to do some running around. And I've got to admit, I felt very pressured. I hadn't been through this sort of experience before. And I went to pick up Kishore and Joshna from the airport. Of course, I'd met them in the past, but when they arrived, I quickly understood this is a dream team under the circumstances. You got Joshna with her social worker's background and Kishore, dynamo, super organizer. And I can't say how thankful I am to them. And I thought, and how thankful I was and reassured for Urmilaben in this great moment of need. These two people come in and they're just ready and they know what to do and the energy is there. And I've got to say, I'm eternally thankful to them. And what a, in her moment of greatest need, there they were. And then I got to say, I'm very thankful. This might seem very sad, but what was so moving for me was having the opportunity, because she viewed me as a younger brother, then Joshna and Kishore arranged that I, with the body at the funeral, that I should do some, well, how would you say, decorating. And I've never done anything like that before. I haven't had, to see this person I've known for 40 years, there's the body there, very solemn, very moving. I didn't feel sad, actually. I felt honored more than anything else that I could have the opportunity to do that for somebody who I've known so long. And so the other thing, though, just briefly, when I was setting up here yesterday for the function, the thing that kept coming to me, and it's a happy thing, I kept hearing Urmilaben's laugh. And I love the way Silva talked about that. She had this beautiful, one of those from the deepest part of the heart laughs. Only someone like Urmilaben could have a laugh like that. And then the other thing, you're all saying she wouldn't get angry. She could be assertive. I saw her in a very Urmila way. When we were traveling and you're in a restaurant, particularly in India, and if someone serving us properly, Urmilaben, after a while, she would speak up and they'd get a scolding. And to get a scolding from her, you can see this is a very honorable woman. That's the way I looked at it. When a very honorable woman like that scolds you, they jump to attention and they quickly do what needs to be done. So she would rarely do that, but she would. She knew how to be assertive and would do it in the very Urmila way with full dignity and force, and you would get the results. So I don't really think I need to say anything more. You've all done a wonderful job of just covering so many aspects of Urmilaben's character and life and times. So maybe if there's, unless there's anyone else now who would like to come up and say anything, we could move on to the PowerPoint presentation, which will, in pictures, photographs, show the life and times of Urmilaben. And maybe I'll request Kishore and Joshna to give a little bit of a commentary where needed, especially with the early photos with the family in Uganda.
That's Urmila when she was a baby. I never knew she liked dogs. That's in her early days. Photo taken by my eldest brother. He used to have a studio. That's photo taken in a temple in Mabale. In her school days, she's sitting right at the front, second from the left. School days. I never knew she played hockey. That's the family photo. Sitting right at the front, my dad and my mom. Little boy is my nephew Bimal. Bhavna, standing up from the left, is a cousin of ours who is in India. That's me next to him. In the middle, my sister Vimla, Urmila, my eldest sister Anandaben, and her husband Chandrakant. Another one of the family portraits. Bhavna was little on a bicycle. Vimla, Urmila, mom, dad, and myself. That's during her visit to UK in 2017. Manisha, my daughter-in-law at the left. It's myself next to her. Cousin's wife, Urmila, one of my cousin. Ritik in her hands. Kishore, my son Avinash. My cousin Mukesh Bhai, Prakash. And the two kids are Prakash, Risha and Mihir in Cambridge. And that's my grandson with Urmila, who absolutely adored her.
Australia now. So that's as you can see, big group photograph. There's Urmilaben and Ashok there, just this with Swami Ranganathananda, who many of us were talking about. And that's Mataji, Ajayaprana Mataji, seated on his right. Early years of our contact with Vedanta. You can see I'm putting the pointer there, Urmilaben, just in the back row there. And lots of traveling. So you see Urmilaben made it to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. Well, we did it the hard way. We went the long way from Charlotte's Pass, a very long walk. It was a bit dangerous, actually. It's such a long way. We could have got very tired and caught in any bad weather on the way back, but happily it was a sunny day. And we had a great retreat at Point Piper many years ago, beautiful place run by nuns. I mean, they used part of their retreat center. Urmilaben loved going to Dharma, our retreat center. Only in recent years, it was a bit too much. We did manage to get her down there in July, just for a day trip, which was nice. Yeah. And this is when the General Secretary visited. And we had well, I think it was like a one-day retreat, or anyway, a big event with her. There's Urmilaben, if you can see, just right over in the left-hand side there. Just her face popping through the group. But of course, I'm just putting this in. These are a lot of the people Urmilaben has known well over the years. There's this photo here on the eastern suburbs. That was on New Year's Day. We had an outing, went across to the coast. And that was a very happy group that went on a many weeks tour of India with Mataji, Jayaprana Mataji. It was a very happy memory for Urmilaben, that trip. Uh-huh. And more recently, just last year, when there was some snow up in the Blue Mountains, or snow was predicted, so I very quickly arranged we called Urmilaben the night before, said, come along, we're going to go up and we'll see the snow. And it was snowing that morning. And then a couple of years before that, another one of the many outings, the Barrenjoey headland, one of the classic places in Sydney. We had a nice day out there. And last kind of trip away, which with Urmilaben, was to Fredbo, a nearby Charlotte Pass up in the snowy mountains. And we were lucky. It was in November, and while we were there was a storm came through, and there was fresh snowfall. So it was a really lovely trip. Oh yeah, on the way to Dharma. Yeah. Of course, here's Urmilaben in Waratah Hospital in those final days. We went to see her very regularly. So that's, that. I'm just going to see, I've just noticed Arishi was wanting to speak. I'll try. You're still there, Arishi. I'm unmuting you. Wait on, I've got to change the security settings, sorry. All right. Let's see if we can hear you and see you. Oh, I'll get the, sorry, the video I've got to start as well. All right, let's see. Oh, there you are.
Pranams Mataji's, namaste everyone, and thank you for allowing me to say a few quick words. I just wanted to speak on behalf of my parents, Sanjay and Anuradha, and my brother, and especially my mother. Mum would have liked to say a few words, but she's too emotional, but she just wanted me to convey a brief message. Firstly, namaste to Jyotsna auntie and Kishore uncle. And I say auntie and uncle because for me and for us, Urmila auntie always described herself as my brother's sister. Every Raksha Bandhan, she would send a Rakhi to us. Every Diwali, we would exchange gifts. She never forgot a certain, any occasion. Always on our birthday, Srajan and I would get love and messages from her. And whenever she visited with Mataji, I was often her roommate. And she'd give me lots of pearls of wisdoms. And sometimes we would have, girly chats about things she experienced in life and how I was going in school and things like that. In particular, she was very close to Mum, who was close to her. She was an older sister to Mum, and I myself have witnessed them talking for hours sometimes, and they would know everything about each other. Urmila auntie would never fail to ask about, for example, my cousin's new baby over in India. Mum would always ask how Ritik is, because he was very close. He had a very special place in Urmila auntie's heart, as did you did, Jyotsna auntie and Kishore uncle. So hopefully by extension, we are now family as well. And for me, in my memory, it still is Urmila auntie, my mum, Anuradha, Vasanti auntie, and Haridasi auntie, Tony Whipper. And when she was able to join us, Sarva Mangala auntie, these were and Betty auntie. And together they were all sisters in the order. And in fact, Mataji would say sometimes they were like flowers in her heart. So we will definitely miss Urmila auntie, and thank you for allowing us to say a few words at the end. And we won't forget her. She's in our hearts, and she has given us such a wonderful example of how to live a life of such purity. So we thank Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother for allowing us to be associated with Urmila auntie and her greatness. Namaste, everyone.
Thanks, Arashi. Srajan, you want to jump up? Srajan, can you? There he is.
Namaste, everyone. I wanted to also say something very, very small. I won't take up too much of your time, but for me, Urmila auntie was, we called her auntie, but for Rushi and I, she was like our mother, like a second mother who would come with the Matajis when they would go on trips, or when we would visit to the hall or Chittapavan. She would be like a mother to us. And auntie knew me before I was born. She's known me longer than I've known her. And while everyone has shared some beautiful stories about her love, her stoicness, her ability to carry on no matter what the situation, a lot of my memories were that of a child and a mother. Most of my strongest memories of auntie are being scolded by her. I was a very hyperactive child, and perhaps even now as an adult, I'm a hyperactive adult. And auntie would always take a moment to pull me aside, no matter where we were, and say, why can't you sit quietly? There's nothing wrong with sitting quietly. It's like, sit quietly, say the Lord's name, do your japa. And as a child, you would start to resent it. And I would try and hide in the other side of the house from auntie. I go, auntie's going to look at me and she's going to see me jumping around and I'm going to get in trouble again. And now thinking back to that, I miss it. I really miss being scolded by auntie, because deep down what she wanted for us, for Rushi and I, and for everyone, was to be better people. She was such an image of calm and sincerity and of love and true care. And when she would look at us, she wanted us to be better. And even now, thinking of every time auntie would call our mom and would talk, she would always ask about us. How are we doing? How are we faring? And I think it's now that auntie's gone and moved on, I know that in my heart of hearts, I know that if there's anyone who truly sorry. My namastes to everyone, and we loved you very much, Auntie. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajan. Now we'll have a reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna by Gayatri Pranas. You'll be doing that. What's he saying? Just a moment, I'll see what message is there. Someone else's. That's it.
It's late, I know, but we have to read a part from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna because that's what Urmila wanted. I'll be reading a portion from the chapter called Advice to the Brahmos. It's Sunday, 8th April, 1883. It was Sunday morning. The master, looking like a boy, was seated in his room. Near him was another boy, his beloved disciple Rakhal. M entered and saluted the master. Ramlal was also in the room, and Kishori, Manilal Malik, and several other devotees gathered by and by. For those who don't know about this, this is a recording of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, recorded by a devotee called M. So whenever he went, whatever he heard from Sri Ramakrishna, he jotted in his diary, and later he compiled as this book. Athar Sen arrived with several of his friends. He was a deputy magistrate, about 30 years old. This was his second visit to the master. He was accompanied by his friend Sarada Charan, who was extremely unhappy because of the death of his eldest son. A retired deputy inspector of schools, Sarada Charan devoted himself to meditation, and Arthur had brought his friend to the master for consolation in his afflicted state of mind. Coming down from Samadhi, the master found the eyes of the devotees fixed on him. He muttered to himself, still in an abstracted mood. Then, addressing the devotees, Sri Ramakrishna said, "The spiritual wisdom of worldly people is seen only on rare occasions. It is like the flame of a candle. No, it's rather like a single ray of the sun passing through a chink in the wall. Worldly people chant the name of God, but there is no zeal behind it. It's like children swearing by God, having learned the word from the quarrels of their aunts. I and mine, that's ignorance. By discriminating, you will realize that what you call I is really nothing but Atman. Reason it out. Are you the body or the flesh or something else? At the end, you will find that you are none of these. You are free from attributes. Then you will realize that you have never been the doer of any action, that you have been free from virtue and false alike, that you are beyond righteousness and unrighteousness. It is God alone who has become everything, but in man, he manifests himself the most. God is directly present in the man who has the pure heart of a child and who laughs and cries and dances and sings in divine ecstasy. By this time, Sri Ramakrishna had become better acquainted with other, who related the cause of his friend's grief. You remember, we have said his friend, he has brought his friend Sarada Charan, who was unhappy because of the death of his eldest son. So the master had become better acquainted with other, who related the cause of his friend's grief. The master sang as if to himself, to arms, O man, death storms your house in battle array. Bearing the cure of knowledge, mount the chariot of devotion, bend the bow of your tongue with the bowstring of love, and aim at him the shaft of Mother Kali's holy name. Here is a ruse for the fray. You need no chariot or charioteer. Fight your foe from the Ganges bank, and he is easily slain. This is a translation of the Bengali song. Then he said, what can you do? Be ready for death. Death has entered the house. You must fight him with the weapon of God's holy name. God alone is the doer. I say, O Lord, I do as thou dost through me. I speak as thou speakest through me. I am the machine, and thou art the operator. I am the house, and thou art the indweller. I am the engine, and thou art the engineer. Give your power of attorney to God. One doesn't come to grief through letting a good man assume one's responsibilities. Let his will be done. After giving that advice first, then Sri Ramakrishna says, but isn't your grief for your son only natural? The son is one's own self reborn. Lakshmana ran to Ravana when the latter fell dead on the battlefield. This is from the Ramayana story. Looking at Ravana's body, he found that every one of his bones was full of holes. Thereupon he said to Rama, it's Lakshmana. Lakshmana said to Rama, O Rama, glory be to your arrows. There is no spot in Ravana's body that they have not pierced. Brother, replied Rama, the holes you see in his bones are not from my arrows. Grief for his sons has pierced them through and through. Before Ravana was killed, he lost all his sons. His sons were killed. So grief for his sons has pierced them through and through. Those holes that you are the marks of his grief. It has penetrated his very bones. But house, wife, and children are all transitory. They have only a momentary existence. The palm tree alone is real. One or two fruits have dropped off. Why lament? God is engaged in three kinds of activity: creation, preservation, and destruction. Death is inevitable. All will be destroyed at the time of dissolution. Nothing will remain. Then Sri Ramakrishna gave some advice to Athar. Sri Ramakrishna began to talk with Athar on the veranda north of his room. Master to Athar, you are a deputy magistrate. Remember that you have obtained your position through the grace of God. Do not forget him, but remember that all men must one day walk down the same path. We stay in the world only a couple of days. And the thing is, Atharsan passed away 18 months after this conversation. He was only in his early 30s. And there's a footnote here. At the news of his death, the master wept before the Divine Mother a long time. Athar was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, who referred to him as his own relative. See, even the incarnation of God weeps for his devotees. When Athar died, Sri Ramakrishna was weeping. Do not forget him, but remember that all men must one day walk down the same path. We stay in the world only a couple of days. This world is our field of activity. We are born here to perform certain duties. It is necessary to do a certain amount of work. This is a kind of discipline. One must have stern determination. Then alone is spiritual practice possible. One must make a firm resolve. There is a great power in the seed of God's name. It destroys ignorance. A seed is tender and a sprout soft. Still, it pierces the hard ground. The ground breaks and makes way for the sprout. Always keep your mind fixed on God. In the beginning, you must struggle a little. Later on, you will enjoy your pension. Thank you.
Just a few announcements, and then we'll conclude with a silent meditation for a few minutes, and then you please all join us for lunch. We'll be starting our summer recess from tomorrow, although summer recess in inverted commas, there's still some events coming up. We've got the yoga class on this Thursday from 10 a.m. That'll be the final yoga class for the year. Then for summer recess, instead of having our Sunday talks, we'll be having from next Sunday some spiritual reading and silent meditation. So you're welcome to join the nuns here for that from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. The Friday night discussions, we are not having one next Friday night. I'm going to be away. We'll have two more. The Gita discussion on the 9th, Friday the 9th, and the spiritual evening discussion on the 16th. Of December. And then, as usual, we've got Holy Mother's birthday celebration coming up, Christmas Eve celebration, and on it goes. You'll be kept informed about those through the weekly newsletter. We've got a donation plate and donation box up the back there. And also, there's a book there that you can sign. If you hadn't already signed the book at the funeral, then it'd be nice if you're for a memoir or memorial to sign the book before you go out for lunch. So it's just over on the table there. So now we'll conclude with just a few minutes of silent meditation.